March 10th, 2020. Joe here at Simple Life Show. We're going to be doing a movie review today. It's going to be on the movie. Now, I know that I normally do horror movies. I love horror movies, but also I love sports movies. And this is a new one from Ben Affleck, 2020, called The Way Back. Now, this movie is supposed to be a sports movie, but in reality, it's more of a comeback movie for not so much the team, but for the coach. And for that reason alone, I think it's unique in that it doesn't so much focus on the actual team itself. Now, most people, when they watch this movie, they will go into this movie thinking that it's going to be like another Hoosiers or another type of movie like that. Now, I compare a lot of sports movies, especially basketball movies, to Hoosiers simply because it is a tour de force when it comes to sports movies. It is right up there, probably top 3 best sports movies ever made. Now, if you have never watched Hoosiers, don't watch that before you watch this movie because you will be disappointed. This movie, The Way Back, is not about sports so much as it is about redemption of character. Now, I'm not going to say that this is a bad movie. There's a lot of critics that say it's not very good. Now, if we just kind of skip over to Rotten Tomatoes here, if I can actually do something with my screen, let's go to Rotten Tomatoes. It got an 85% fresh scale, which means it's a fresh movie. I think it's a fresh movie. I think it's worth watching, but not for the reasons that most people go into sports movies. Most people who go into watching this movie will enjoy it if they've never seen Hoosiers. 84% of the audience liked it. Now, Hoosiers is kind of an old film. It's been out there for a long time. So most people who watch this movie probably have never seen Hoosiers, I guess. Let's go over to a lot of the actual reviews here from the critics. They didn't really like it. Taking it on its own terms, the film is beautifully crafted, sequence of events, many of them stirred along the road of redemption. That's a good review. Wall Street Journal. Common Sense Media. Ben Affleck shows up in this atypical for him drama, elevating that would otherwise to be a standard issue sports film. Now it gets kind of gets a little bit negative here. Plugged In says, if you're expecting hard-edged, cheer-worthy comeback story here, well, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. Variety says, beneath the authenticity of its staging, there's a moralistic simplicity of The Way Back. The film is too programmatic, an illustration of how bad things happen to good people. New York Times says that Ben Affleck stars in this film that has outward trappings of inspirational sports drama, but is primarily a recovery movie. Rolling Stone says, cornball, maybe, but it helps that O'Connor dexterously avoids the usual lump in the throat tear-jerking. Now, this some people can say that's good. Some people can say that's bad, that it doesn't really have a lot of tear-jerking moments. There's just none in there. I was expecting an actual sports film about a really bad team that makes it back and makes it to the playoffs. It's talking about this, I guess, this Catholic school called Bishop, and they've never made it to the playoffs ever since Jack Cunningham, who's the main character played by Ben Affleck, played for that team many years ago. Now, Ben Affleck, the Jack Cunningham character, is a divorced, and he is also, now they call him a widower, but he's not. He says a widowed former basketball all-star. Now, this might be true. I might have been thinking that the woman that plays in this movie is actually his ex-wife, and I'm pretty sure it is. So I don't know why it's saying widowed. The fact of the matter, in this movie, you'll find out, spoiler alert, that it's not so much a spoiler alert, but his character is obviously flawed, because he's having problems dealing with the death of his 9-year-old son. And we see the juxtaposition between him being this basketball star. Now, we don't even really get into that in this film. We don't really get into a lot of the history behind this. And for its runtime, I believe this really should, that's kind of a short runtime on this. It really should have been a slightly longer film. We should have been able to connect with the characters more. We should have seen some more backstory. We don't get to really into the backstory until we're halfway through the film. So that was a little bit disappointing. It was a little bit jarring because I wasn't exactly sure what was going on. This guy's just an alcoholic. He drinks a lot. Why? Tell me. Then we finally get to it. So I wasn't really impressed with how it was structured. But most importantly, I was not impressed with the lack of connectability between the audience and the characters themselves. I did not feel any type of connection there. I didn't care what happened to the characters at all. I mean, I'm not gonna tell you the end of the film because I'm not gonna spoil anything, because there's not really too much spoilers, because it just poofs out at the end, and it's just kind of like a sigh at the end. There's not really anything to be said. The only thing that can really be said about this film was that it's unique because it focuses on the coach himself and not so much the players. And I was disappointed with that, because we had at least with a few of the characters, at least one character had some conflict on their own. And that was one of the characters that their father did not want to be involved in their lives or involved in their basketball, because they had other things to do, because they saw themselves as a failure, just like the coach saw himself as a failure as well. So, I mean, if you want to call it unique, you want to call it anything you want, but as far as connectability, it got a 0 out of 10 for me. And I think that's very important with these types of films, especially this type of film. You have to connect with the characters. There has to be lump in your throat moments. There has to be tear-jerking moments. Otherwise, you do not connect. You're trying to say something about, you're trying to say something about whatever theme you're proposing in this film, which is recovery. But we really don't know at the end whether he really makes a real recovery or not. And that's one of the biggest problems with this film. It falls flat. Now, it's not something that won't keep your attention. You can watch it all the way through and be like, okay, well, I don't really feel like I wasted my time. But I really didn't feel like I came away with any type of message at all. Yeah, it's a redemption story. I get it. But so what? Most all stories are redemption stories. Tell me why it's important. Give me something new. And if you can't give me something new, give me something to care about. Because you have to do one or the other in any kind of film, story, book, or whatever. If you don't want to focus on plot, you got to focus on connectability with the characters. They have to be three-dimensional characters. You have to care about what happens to them after the curtain goes down. So as far as a rating I would give this film, I would give it a 5 out of 10. It's watchable, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really have a message. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great day. Bye.